Hello, my wonderful people in power. This is Through the Looking Glass with your host and sister in power, Kosi Danielle, where we spotlight experiences, stories, and conversations of people from the African continent and diaspora. Thank you so much for tuning into today's conversation. Once again, I am your host, Kosi Danielle, where we bring together stories, conversations, and experiences of the African continent and diaspora. I am joined by an ex-sports representative at the African Leadership Academy, Pamela Anne Gode. She's a 19-year-old Ivorian and a student with many passions. Welcome, Pamela.
Thank you for having me, Kosi.
Pamela is here to share how she balances her masculine and feminine sides, all while keeping true to herself. She fights the stereotype of what is traditionally masculine and feminine. I personally am very excited for this conversation. I hope you are too.
Yay!
So thank you again, Pamela, for joining me. I'd like to give you the floor to say a few words and we can get on with the conversation.
Oh, okay. That's how it goes. Okay, so hi, my name is Pamela. Like Kosi said, I'm a 19-year-old from Ivory Coast, and I'm extremely passionate about a lot of stuff like YouTube, sports, just writing in general. So like I try to navigate like my creative side like very much, and I'm very happy to be on this episode. Yeah.
Yay! Thank you so much. So now we're gonna head on with our conversation. So let's set the table here. What are your thoughts on gender roles?
Okay. I personally believe, so difficult question. I think yes and no to gender roles in terms of like,
this is a new one.
Yeah, I know, right? Like, yes, in terms of like, okay, I get that they're like different genders and like it's like different how like they work is needed in terms of like the stability of life, you know, not only in like relationship, like even in friendship or workplaces, like it's needed in the balance of things. However, I don't believe it's necessary like always, because there are certain places where you don't really need to have gender roles. Exactly. So it's a yes or no for me.
Okay.
Like sometimes yes, but like just not how people portray it as, if I can say like that, because people are very heavy on like gender roles, and I'm just like, guys, chill.
Interesting, because like you usually get very polarizing effects of one side saying like, yes, we need gender roles. Gender roles are the structure of society, and society will collapse in and of itself if we don't have these roles. And the other side is like, down with gender roles. We don't need it. It's like useless, etc., etc. So it's very interesting to see like kind of like a middleman.
Yeah, I think we need both. Like in terms of like, yeah, I understand the very extreme like, we need gender for like the structure of society. Yes, I agree to some extent where like we do need it in certain aspect of life. Like I said, like sometimes relationships, sometimes friendship, workplaces, school, anything. But at the same time, I feel like the way people are portraying it as like it's a life or death situation is a bit like, guys, like calm down. We can live without it sometimes, but sometimes also we need it. So it just depends on like the circumstance.
Yeah, the context.
Exactly.
So do you believe then that there are gender roles that should be taught to people to follow? Like, do you believe people should be taught gender roles to follow and that's it? Like, you're born this way, you go this way, and you're born that way, you go that way.
No. I feel like people should be taught gender roles not to follow, but to just build up their knowledge about them. I believe that anyone can like decide what gender they want to be or what gender they believe they are. I feel like assigning a gender to someone is like limiting their freedom to be a person and be a human being. I believe that like you can be taught what gender roles are. Now take it or leave it if you want to implement that on your life. But like I believe that the decision of like, oh, if I should follow a specific gender is up to you and not up to society, if I can say it like that. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's That's something. That's really something. I think it is up to you to kind of decide whether you want to follow or whether you want to like stick with, like, there is no problem in and of itself of following gender rules. Like, if you want to be like hyper feminine or if you want to be hyper masculine, as long as they're in healthy ways, I think you're like really good. I think there's too much demonization that goes into like I think because of how gender roles have like done so much damage. Now that when people embrace, you know, their own personal decision to embrace their own, like, the gender roles, it's seen as like a threat to everyone else, when I don't think that should be the case. I think,
agree.
Yeah. Have you been raised to, like, Pamela, have you been raised to follow gender roles, and if so, how did that affect your upbringing?
Yes, I've been raised to follow gender roles because I live in an African household, so and African parents mine, there's two genders, male and female, so obviously I've been raised to to follow the gender I was kind of like, from my parents' perspective, assigned to like at birth, so female. So everything was very like, this is for girls, this is for boys. However, they didn't really like, in a way, try to force it on me, if I can say it like that. Like, in terms of, like, you know, in certain households they were gonna be like, okay, like, skirts is for girls and pants are for boys. Like, they will buy me both and they will let me decide which one I should wear, or like even like which gender I can assign to it, but like discreetly, because again, like I said, in certain African household, like, there are only two genders, male and female, and that's all. However, when it came to my activities and everything, they didn't really say much about me doing like what is typically seen as masculine things, or what is typically seen as feminine things. So yeah, they gave me freedom on that. I believe it's at school that was a bit hectic because I didn't really experience puberty like the others. Like, I was a late bloomer, still am. Like, things that are like feminine, like boobs, or I think that's all basically to determine if you're a girl or not, didn't really come like early for me. So when I saw my friends changing and like them having like big breasts and everything, and me with my flat chest, they will assume that I'm a boy and call me like a guy and tell me, it was very hectic. So obviously,
bites and everything. Oh, it was terrible.
So yeah, they will call my melons, or if I can call it melon, like my lime, and they will just assume that I'm a guy because I don't have something that like identify me like as a female person. So obviously in the beginning it did affect me because, like I said, growing up where you're only taught like two genders, and like the gender that your parents told you are is not the one that your friends see you as, is obviously confusing. You're like, what the hell is happening? Like, why am I a girl in one side and for my friends I'm a boy, even though it was bullying and they knew dead ass that I was a girl. It was just like very confusing. So obviously I was very frustrated about that. Obviously, like, every single time like having to justify that, no, I'm a girl. And then like growing up, I just realized that I didn't need to justify that, because again, it only matters like what I identify as. And I ended up being very comfortable, not really always like justifying the fact that I was a girl, and like if people consider me to be a guy, I would just let it be, because at the end of the day it only depends on what I identify as, and that's all. So yeah, I think like it's so interesting because like people view gender as just like binary, just like male and female, and they take it to the extreme. So if you don't have the big boobs and the big butt and the
huge curves and you know all these exaggerated features, then you're seen as less feminine. If you don't have the long hair, you don't have, you know, all those stereotypically feminine features, then you're viewed as less than feminine. Well, for men, it's like if you don't have the big muscles and you don't have X, Y, and Z, I really don't know what are but if you don't have like if you're not athletic, if you're weak, if you're, you know, you have some certain traits that are not necessarily kind of viewed to be masculine, then you also get kind of shamed for it.
Exactly.
And I don't think that should be the case. I think there should be flexibility in how, because in the end of the day, you are a human being, and we're all human beings, and we all experience a broad range of like emotion, a broad range of expressions, and I think we should be allowed to let those expressions, like, you know, come forth. If you're a man and you're weak, it doesn't make you less of a man. You're still a man. If you're a woman and you're, you know, maybe assertive and what, it doesn't make you less of a woman. Yeah.
Exactly.
And I have a question to ask, but like, what ways have gender roles been a barrier for you in expressing yourself or pursuing your goals?
I think the main one would be like I said before, like assigning gender to like certain activities or certain passion. So that has been like very frustrating for me, because like I didn't grow. Okay, so I was the typical stereotype of what a girl should like be like according to society, like very feminine, doesn't like sports, doesn't like any like masculine things, quote unquote. However, I decided to become interested in those because I clearly found a passion in them. Like certain times I would watch soccer with my dad and would enjoy it a lot, and would end up continue watching it and like knowing more. And then I reached a point where like at school people would not find me believable or credible because of my gender again. Like I just hated the fact that they always had to associate my gender with like what I liked to do in some sort. And even when they were comfortable with the fact that I liked soccer, they will still make those sexist jokes like, oh, like I remember that one time I was just very pissed. Like if a girl can successfully like name 5 players apart from Ronaldo and Messi, then I'll buy them whatever they want. And I'm just like, what the hell?
That's ridiculous.
Like, exactly, those stupid questions. Like, or like if a girl knows like what this tool is in like video game, then I'll let her do whatever she wants with me. I'm just like, guys, stop. I'm begging you. Because when those things were created, it wasn't really created in, okay, I don't know, because this again, it's very problematic, because again, I don't know. I believe in a way, like some part of me believe that when it was created, it was in the intention of like making it only specifically for men. Regardless, where we're moving towards, like at the end of the day, with like the amount of like people passionate for those things, I don't feel like it's very intelligent to just associate it with just gender. You can be a girl, a boy, non-binary, gender fluid, regardless of what you're like identify as, and still like those things, because at the end of the day, they don't ask for a specific like characteristic from like gender, if I can say it like that. If you're good at it, you're good at it. So whether it be video games, whether it be anime, whether it be sports, anything that is typically male is just it's just like just passions. You don't need to have a specific, body type or something to like it.
To enjoy something.
Exactly. So I feel like my gender role has been challenged in terms of like my passions, because I had to fight a lot to make people realize that my gender doesn't make me like less or more interested in the thing that I like.
Yeah.
And it was even my campaign, and to some point, like as a like when I was campaigning for a sports rep here at ALA, in terms of like, I didn't want my gender to be like, oh, like, okay, so she's a girl, yeah, she's running for sports rep. You know what they said? You know what they say? Women in sports are not really the. Yeah, I didn't want that. I just wanted them to see my passion and why I like soccer or even sports in general. And during my mandate, even though I didn't want to associate my gender to it, I wanted to uplift women in sports who are facing like these comments every single time, like, oh, you're a girl, like what the hell do you know about sports, or all of that. So yeah, very, very childish, very stupid, very stupid comments, if I can say it like that. Yeah,
no, it's like, because like how there's many things that are like tied with like wanting to, like, for example, liking things, like for example video games, like you said, sports, certain types of music. I feel like those are gate kept, you know, by certain genders, whether it's male or female. They're like, oh, you like this, I don't know, you like Aerosmith, name 5 of their songs. Oh, you like football, name at least 3 Chelsea players. Like, you know, why are you gatekeeping these things
from 1990 something? Because
exactly.
if I asked you the same thing, you'll be stuck as well. Like,
yeah,
what the fuck?
why is so trivial on these things, or like this discrimination based on gender? Because there's already been this established thing that women know less of quote unquote men's topic than men's topic.
Yeah, and it goes both ways as well. Like even females towards men, because I whole like Harry Styles like incident when he was wearing crop tops and like very feminine quote unquote like clothing, and then like certain people on the internet were like, oh my god, like this should be only for women and then he should focus. I'm just like, dudes, when clothing was created, it was not created in the mind of like, this is for women, this is for men. Again, I might be wrong.
Very subjective.
It's very subjective, but like just the fact that even if it was created in terms of like, this is for men, this is for women, the fact that people promoting that give it much more power than what it really is, you see? Like if we came with the intention of like, oh it's just clothing, you know, like I can wear like baggy pants like men can wear crop tops or makeup or things like that. It's just something that is just on their skin, like on their body. It's making them pleasure, and I think that's the biggest thing we should see. If they are happy with what they are enjoying, whether it be makeup, whether it be clothing, whether it be like anything that's quote unquote reserved for female or quote unquote reserved for men, and we can see that people are like breaking this and saying that they're just like passions that I can have regardless of my gender, I feel like the world would just move forward, because I feel like people are just creating problems where problems are not there. Exactly. Like, guys, there's a lot of things that we can talk about right now. Why are we debating on whether or not Harry Styles should wear crop tops?
It's really redundant at this point.
Exactly.
So this leads me to my next question, and is, why do you think, like, obviously incorrect gender stereotypes, like girls like pink, boys like blue, why do you think those stereotypes remain in society?
Because of people, if I can say it like that. The only reason it started is because of people, and the only reason it's continuing is because of people. I feel like I said, if we just went past the fact that they're just colors and everyone can like any type of colors, or even anything like that is, like I said, reserved for any gender, the world would be, I can't say a better place, but it would be a less complicated place, if I can say it like that. I feel like the fact that it's continuing, like the fact that pink is for girls and blue is for boy, or this is for this X gender and this is for Y gender, I feel like the only reason why it's continuing is because people are continuing to like promote that in their kids' mind, and they're in like newspapers and TVs and all that. I feel like if we just, like I said in the beginning, let people have the freedom to decide which thing they want to associate themselves with when it comes like to gender, when it comes to like hobbies or passion that are typically reserved for X or Y gender. I feel like less problems would occur.
Yeah.
And people would focus on more serious thing like what is happening in the other parts of the world, like famine or droughts or anything. So yeah, I think the reason why these ideas are still being like installed and kept in like people's mind is because of people themselves.
Yeah,
who are promoting it.
And here's a fun fact. So like there's this trade catalog where they recommend blue for girls, actually, because it's a more delicate and dainty color, while pink was recommended for boys because it was a more stronger and more passionate color, and because it derived from red. So that stereotype of pink being for girls and blue being for boys, it's not always been like, things are always changing. And also, something such as trivial as colors and assigning them to gender is actually really funny.
I know. Like,
so what about the other colors? Purple.
Yeah, what about green? What about yellow?
I feel like people... I don't know. I think, like, people would associate things like green, blue, like those... I don't know what it is. Black, they'd associate them with, oh yeah, boys. But girls would be like pink, purple, gold, you know.
I know, I'm just like,
it's really interesting.
Colors, they're just living their lives, guys.
Or things like high heels, they were originally meant for men, or I think men who were butchers, so like their shoes not good. So it's really, all this is really true. It's really funny to see. So my next question now is like, how do you find yourself sometimes adhering to gender roles or gender stereotypes, and do you view it as like a bad thing, like necessarily?
In the beginning, yes. I remember when I started liking soccer, and then like I was just very frustrated by the whole situation about my gender, in terms of like when I found boys who weren't passionate about sports, I would be like, why? But like,
you're strange.
Exactly, you're weird. And then when I see like girls being passionate about soccer, I'll be like, yay, purr, yay. But like boys, I'm like, why? And then I just sat down like, okay, I'm just reversing what it has happened to me to like other like genders, because I am associating soccer or like sports in general, things that are very like strong and like you need to have like a lot of like muscles to men, and then the fact that they don't like it, I'm just like, why exactly? But like it's not normal, because if I still follow my ideologies in terms of like their like hobbies or anything in life shouldn't have a gender to it. Anything in life shouldn't have a gender to it unless you feel like you're ready to take it regardless of your gender. You see, I shouldn't be like, you know, putting, okay, this one is for men and this one is for women. Exactly. Things. So I feel like it's bad personally. I feel like I said in the beginning, people should just have the freedom to decide on their own things. I believe that if these certain type of things were created because of gender, like in terms of like video games or sports, if they were created with a gender in mind, we should not promote that, and we should like actually change the narrative and be like, this is for everyone. You see. And so I feel like just falling into the stereotype, it's not, I'm not saying that if you do, you're a villain, because I believe that how society is right now, it's almost impossible to not fall into the stereotype. At least once in your life you already thought about that. But like staying in the stereotype, that's when I'm be like, you just need to move. Like you need to learn, you need to understand that this can be for everyone. Yeah, exactly.
I think like where it gets wrong is or people get wrong is, it's, you're not going to be demonized for following those stereotypes, but I think like pushing them on others is what makes it like, oh, okay, this is not like your place. But you yourself, you can definitely, like, if you are the type of man to want to know how to fix things and fix cars, you know, just like those stereotypes, and want to know how to be like manly and, you know, all that stuff. That's fine. If you're a woman and you want to cook for your husband and stay at home, take care of your children, maybe have a job and that's totally fine. But if you're out there then preaching, oh, women should be this and that, or men should be this and that, that's when it's like, oh, okay. Because human beings are very fluid. On to my next question. It's why do you think it's so socially acceptable for females to be masculine and for males to be feminine?
The fantasies. The fetishization of that, if I can say it like that. It goes like the same way, like it's very normal to see and acceptable to see lesbians than to see like gay men. You see? Like, because men or people in general just are not bothered by two women dating and kissing because, you know, I mean, even that to some extent can be contradicted, but like they'll be like, oh, okay, that's cool. Like they'll be like
women are less threatening
than seeing like a man dating another man. They'll be like bad, and I'm just like, okay, this is just the fantasies and the fetishization. Yes, fetishization. English. Oh my god. But like, the fetishism, let me put that way, of other people towards like lesbians or female that act mass. And like I said, that can be contradicted to some extent because I can read about people be like, oh my god, they need a man in this relationship, you know, they need some dick and everything. Can I say that, by the way?
Go on.
Okay, cool. They need something deeper and that, you see, and I'm just like, no, they don't. Like, the reason why they are lesbian is because they realize that you are unnecessary and to their well-being as a couple or as them as a person. And same for female that are masked. Like, they don't need to be reminded that, you know, I feel like they know. It's just that they want to explore other parts of their gender. And I feel like for men it's just very like a threat because I don't know, like men are not supposed to do that. Men are supposed to be straight and all that, and we're like, no, not at all. Like, it's nowhere written that it's not. Yeah, exactly.
Basically that's my last point, that they just think women are less threatening and less, I don't know, like they don't see them as an affront to anything. They just say, okay, women are, like, again, binding to stereotypes, women are weaker, so they just know less, and they're like, okay, yeah, they can do all these silly things and, like, you know, act masculine. And also it seems like masculinity is praised more than femininity is praised. So when a woman acts masculine, it's like, oh, okay, yeah, she's acting masculine because masculinity is more socially acceptable. When a man acts feminine or has some feminine traits, he's like immediately demonized because it's less desirable to be feminine. And to my last question is, how do you view yourself outside gender roles, and how would you say you find confidence in being your true authentic self?
Outside gender role, I just see myself as a human being, you know. Gender is something that I was and kind of like still trying to navigate, a bit struggling with. I personally use the pronoun she, they because I do associate myself as a woman, but at the same time I realize that sometimes I don't associate myself in the two genders because not the two genders, but like the two binary, male and female. I can see myself out of that and just being a human being, if I can say it like that. So I feel like my main answer would be I just see myself as a human being at the end of the day because like I said, like the human body is very interesting, where like men, quote unquote, can be born with boobs and vagina you know.
Intersex people.
Exactly. Intersex people exist. Androgen people exist. Like, and there's a lot. Like, so you see that it's even breaking the purpose of, like, gender, if I can say it like that. Because at the end of the day, we're just humans. If you consider yourself a human being, obviously, I'm not pushing that. There's some people that consider themselves aliens or animal. I'm not pushing anything on them. But, like, at the end of the day, I find myself to be a human being that just has human beings' feelings and human beings' emotion. Yeah, I can be masked. Today, I can decide to wake up and be like, okay, I want to be masculine and wear anything that is typically masculine, quote unquote, which again, I don't really believe in. But in the other day, I'll be like, oh, let me be femme and let me wear, quote unquote, things that are associated to femininity and all that. But like, yeah, like the days where I will be masked, I will wear makeup. And the day where I'll be femme, I will not wear makeup. It just depends, you know? So, yeah. So overall, I just find myself like as a human being. And I think that's where I gain my confidence most of the time. Just the fact that I disassociate myself to what is typically male or what is typically female, and I just decided to live my life like a human that is walking on this earth. Yeah. Wow. So
profound. Thank you so much, Pamela, for joining me on this interview. I really enjoyed this conversation. Like, the time went by so quickly.
It's
like,
really
I didn't realize
nice,
it's like 30 minutes already. But oh my goodness, here we are. Thank you again. I really enjoyed this. Yeah. Bye, guys.
Bye.
This has been an episode of Afro-Resonance with your host and sister in power, Kosi Danielle. If you haven't already, please support and subscribe to my podcast where I upload bi-weekly. You can also show support by following my Instagram page at Afro-Resonance, that is AFRO.RESONANCE. You can also find more details about that in the show notes. I invite you to join the conversation by sharing this episode with someone who might enjoy it, commenting, just engage in a little conversation, or send me an email or a message on Instagram. Thank you so much for listening, and until next time, bye.